YouTube Buzz going. The Goat House is back. Today we're going over the players that I will not be drafting in my fantasy football league this year. I usually always avoid these types of players. One year I did not, went against what I usually do, and it backfired on me. So talking about top players that I will avoid, I will not take, and I would recommend you do the same here. So that is what we're going over. I got a recent video of risky players that I would take, and I actually like where they're being drafted. I think it's a steal of a pick. So that's a recent video up there. We got a bunch of NFL content, not just fantasy football. So check it out. Like, subscribe, to notifications on. Full NFL coverage here. Check us out on Twitter. A lot more on there as well. So McCaffrey, great player. Obviously could have a big season. I'm just not going to take him. I mean, of course, if he slips through really far, which he's not, I'm talking about where he's projected to go, which I'm surprised to see him going 1 and 2. I'm just not going to take him there. It's just too much of a risk based on what's been. I hope he stays healthy too. He's a fantastic player. It's just too much of a risk based on what's going on the last couple of years. I mean, if you're taking McCaffrey, you probably have a top 3 pick. He's going 1 or 2, and if you take him, so if you have 1 or 2, say you have 2, you take him there. He goes down, you're likely not winning your league because your next pick is not till the 11th overall in the second round, unless you get some crazy steals. Or maybe you have a 10-man league. It's the same situation, though, because other teams are getting, obviously, all these better players while you're waiting to make your selection. So it's just too much of a risk for me. I know it's a high reward, but there's other high reward players that are way safer. It's just not worth it to me. So I won't be selecting Christian McCaffrey. I hope he stays healthy. I won't be selecting him based in that range of where he's going to go. Even the mid to late first round, I'd rather take like one of those receivers, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, that are just prime picks, Jamar Chase in the middle or late of the first round. So it's just not a guy I feel comfortable going with. And it's avoiding these types of players really worked out for me. The 1 year I didn't, it really backfired on me. There are risky players I'd be willing to take, though, and that's the most recent video where there's why I would gamble on those players. So I have about 7 of them, so you can check that out. So McCaffrey's one of those top players I won't be taking. Another one, Saquon Barkley. I keep mentioning the year I kind of went against my strategy of avoiding these injury-prone players. Barkley slipped through a little bit, and I took him. Took him in 2 leagues that year because he ended up slipping through a lot. People were passing on him. More people were passing on him than I thought would. And it kind of backfired on me as well. Very talented player. Just seemed, the durability issues seem to be a concern. Average draft position 19. It's nowhere near as high as Christian McCaffrey, but it's just there's other backs I would rather take a shot on. There's backs that I think have just as much upside that you're taking down there as well. They have, every year there's those guys in kind of that range that end up being maybe the top fantasy back in football you're not expecting. I'd just rather take one of those guys with the high ceiling. It's not just Barkley sitting there with the high ceiling, so it's just too much of a risk for me. I great player. I just won't be selecting him, and I think my fantasy team would be very good, passing on these types of players. Aaron Jones, another one, which is weird for me having him on here because I always viewed Aaron Jones as a safe player. It's not really injury. It's more of A.J. Dillon is just scaring, and I like A.J. Dillon a lot for fantasy. He's one of the guys I'm trying to target. The good news is, it feels like, what Rodgers said, they want to use the best players, and it kind of hinted at using both Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, maybe on the field at the same time. But A.J. Dillon progressing, getting better. He's a very strong runner. He's very durable. He's a good pass protector. He's getting a lot better as a pass catcher as well. So, and the last year kind of scares me. Aaron Jones was healthy, but they were using A.J. Dillon. It was like, I think they're kind of just playing it safe for the playoffs with Aaron Jones. That's what it felt like. But the more and more we sit here and wait, it's like, were they actually doing that, or are they really, really like A.J. Dillon? They are paying Aaron Jones a lot of money, but it's a guy that I feel a lot comfortable with if he slips through a little bit more. If we're in a league full of, myself, it's like a bunch of same opinion, maybe he slips through a little bit, and then I'd feel okay taking him. But right around that range, I may rather have an A.J. Dillon even, that's a round later. I really would. Even maybe not even a whole round later. I can see A.J. Dillon scoring more fantasy points than Aaron Jones this year. So it's just too risky. Scares me a little bit. Some of those running backs are sneaky in that range. Obviously, some of the younger guys that have a lot of upside that could end up being top 5. We see it happen every year, top 5 fantasy running backs. So Aaron Jones, I won't be taking, even though I viewed him as a safe pick in the past. And then the last one here is George Kittle. That's that year that I kind of went against taking the or went against my word of taking the injury guys. I took George Kittle. It kind of backfired on me, and obviously another great player, but he hasn't played in a complete season in some time now, even though there's been some seasons with 14 games, which is a lot. But I just, where Kittle's expected to go, which I was surprised to see the average rep position at 42, but I think most leagues he actually goes earlier than that, but from based on what I've seen. But the range where he's going, I just rather have one of the other players. It doesn't have to be a tight end. I think too many people are thinking, well, which other tight end would I take instead? But you could be taking a receiver or a running back there, maybe a quarterback, that just has way more upside, going to get way more points, going to stay healthier. So I would just rather wait a couple more rounds for, even a round or two later for a Dalton Schultz is just way better value, just absolutely way better value. Another round after that for a Dallas Goedert. You want to wait even more rounds, take like a sleeper tight end. You don't want to value it. Maybe you stack up on the receivers and running backs. I've seen some people do that. I've done that in the past where I'm taking, example would be, even if you want to wait, like a Gerald Everett, I think is going to be sneaky good if you really want to load up on everything else. But yeah, I'm just not interested in taking these guys. These are top tier players. They're great players. That it's just, I'd rather take somebody else. I feel confident with my judgment on some of these other guys with their ability to stay healthy and their upside as well. So I'll be passing on these guys. And we only talked about 4 guys here, so there's not too many. There's guys maybe I'm a little iffy about. Everyone's a little iffy about. DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, J.K. Dobbins, guys like that. Maybe a little scary, but it just really depends on when they're available, if I would take them or not. These guys are just big-time players that a lot of people will take early. I just really don't want to do it, and I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I got to feel good about my picks. I don't want to be, have to think about it too much, or I'm going to be thinking about it every week. Is this guy going to stay healthy, or is the backup going to take over? So it's the purpose of this video. It's the reasons why I don't want to take these guys. So hopefully this helped you guys here. Always talking more about these things on Twitter, so check us out there. Comment with players that you just have no interest in taking. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. We have full NFL coverage here. And then, I can't wait for the in-season content to roll out. Very exciting, but it's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.